A livestock auction can sell nearly $100 million worth of cattle in a year and still own less than $4 million of that revenue. The other 96 million belongs to farmers and ranchers, and if even a small portion of that money disappears before sellers are paid, the auction owner can lose the business, the property, and potentially the right to operate. From the outside, a livestock auction market looks like one of the safest businesses in rural America. The owner does not raise the cattle, pay for their feed, absorb years of drought risk, or gamble on the future price of beef. Animals arrive, buyers compete, the auction takes a percentage, and the cattle leave. But this is where the economics become more complicated. The sale barn must maintain expensive land, pens, scales, loading facilities, employees, insurance, regulatory accounts, and buyer relationships, whether 200 cattle arrive or 2,000. It may handle enormous sums of money every week, but most of that money is not revenue. It is money being transferred from buyers to sellers. So, what does it really cost to own a livestock auction market? How does the owner make money? Where does the money disappear? And can a sale barn actually produce attractive returns? By the end, the difference between a busy auction and a profitable auction will become clear. Most people assume the cattle are the business. They are not. The owner generally owns or leases the land, sale ring, pens, gates, loading chutes, certified scales, office, parking area, manure handling system, water infrastructure, computer systems, and sometimes an attached cafe, feed store, or trucking operation. The owner may also control something more valuable than the physical property: the weekly relationship connecting local producers with feedlots, processors, order buyers, backgrounding operations, and other ranchers. That network is the real operating asset. A new owner could build modern pens and install better scales, but without enough sellers bringing livestock and enough buyers bidding competitively, the facility is simply expensive rural real estate. In the United States, livestock markets selling animals on commission are regulated under the Packers and Stockyards Act. A market agency generally must register, maintain required financial protection, follow weighing and trade practice rules, and hold livestock sale proceeds in a separate custodial account. That custodial account is critical. When a buyer pays $50,000 for a group of cattle, that money does not become the auction owner's cash. It is held for the seller. The auction can deduct its lawful commission and fees, but the remainder must be protected and transferred to the livestock owner. This is why auction turnover creates an ownership illusion. A market may process millions of dollars in a single sale, yet retain only a small percentage. The price of entry depends heavily on location. A modest regional market may require several $1 million for land, barns, pens, scales, offices, truck access, drainage, fencing, and renovations. A larger facility near valuable urban land can be worth far more as real estate than as a livestock business. In 2025, the approximately 100-acre Oklahoma National Stockyards property was marketed for $27 million. That figure reflected not only the operating stockyard, but also the value of a large redevelopment site inside a growing city. For a representative regional acquisition, assume the auction property and buildings cost $5 million. Renovating pens, gates, roofs, scales, electrical systems, drainage, and loading facilities requires another $1 million. Vehicles, tractors, manure equipment, livestock handling systems, computers, cameras, auction software, and office equipment add $500,000. Legal work, inspections, insurance deposits, licensing, bonding, initial payroll, marketing, and emergency working capital require another $1 million. The buyer may therefore need approximately $7.5 million before holding the first sale. This is a hypothetical example rather than an industry average, because a leased rural barn and a major urban stockyard have completely different economics. But purchasing the property is only the beginning. The main revenue source is the seller's commission. Some markets charge a percentage of the animal's sale value, while others use minimum charges or fixed per head fees for certain livestock. Published fee schedules at individual U.S. markets commonly show cattle commissions around 3%, although actual rates vary by market, animal type, value, and service. Suppose a market sells 40,000 cattle per year at an average value of $2,400 per head. The total value passing through the auction is $96 million. At a commission rate of 2.75%, the market generates approximately $2.64 million in commission revenue. That sounds impressive until the operating costs are included. The auction may also charge yardage or handling fees. These cover the work involved in receiving, sorting, feeding, watering, weighing, displaying, and loading the livestock. If net retained handling charges average $10 per animal, 40,000 cattle generate another $400,000. The business may earn additional revenue from special breeding sales, horse or goat auctions, livestock insurance administration, veterinary services, health testing, transportation, feed, overnight holding, equipment auctions, online bidding, advertising, restaurant leases, and property rentals. Some owners operate their own trucking fleet. Others rent office space to order buyers or agricultural businesses. A market with excess land may earn income from storage, parking, cellular towers, or commercial leases. These secondary sources may add several $100,000 a year, but they do not change the fundamental equation. The business survives on animal volume. Consider one animal moving through the auction. A $2,400 animal sold at a 2.75% commission generates $66 in commission revenue. Add $10 of retained handling charges, and the market earns $76. But each animal also creates direct costs. Employees must unload it, identify it, move it through the pens, sort it, weigh it, clean behind it, process its paperwork, and load it for the buyer. The animal consumes water, may require feed or bedding, and creates waste that must be removed. Suppose the direct cost averages $18 per head. The contribution margin is therefore $58. Contribution margin is the amount left to cover the costs that continue regardless of how many cattle arrive. If annual fixed expenses are $2.2 million, the market must process approximately 38,000 cattle just to reach operating break-even. That is the number controlling the investment. At 25,000 cattle, the market generates roughly $1.45 million of contribution margin. With $2.2 million of fixed costs, it loses approximately $750,000 before major capital spending and debt repayment. At 40,000 cattle, contribution margin reaches approximately $2.32 million. The market earns only about $120,000 before taxes, financing, and major renovations. At 60,000 cattle, contribution margin rises to approximately $3.48 million. After fixed expenses, operating profit reaches roughly $1.28 million. The same property, employees, ring, and auction software can therefore produce either a large loss or a strong profit depending on throughput. This is operating leverage. Once the fixed costs are covered, additional animals can become highly profitable. But when volume falls, the expenses do not fall quickly enough. Payroll is normally one of the largest expenses. A sale requires auctioneers, ring staff, yard workers, weighmasters, office employees, clerks, check writers, maintenance workers, managers, security personnel, cleaners, and sometimes veterinarians or inspectors. Many employees may work irregular hours. Livestock can arrive the night before a sale and remain after the auction closes. Bad weather does not automatically cancel unloading. Animals still require care, water, safe handling, and secure pens. The property itself consumes money continuously. Metal gates corrode, concrete cracks, roofs leak, hydraulic equipment fails, scales require inspection and maintenance, trucks damage loading areas, manure must be collected and disposed of, water systems can freeze, drainage and wastewater problems can create regulatory and environmental costs. A market may appear profitable while postponing these repairs, but deferred maintenance is not free profit. It is a future bill accumulating behind the financial statements. Insurance is another major expense. The owner faces risks involving employees, customers, trucks, property damage, animal escapes, handling injuries, theft, incorrect weights, disease exposure, and disputes over ownership or payment. Then there is debt. Suppose the owner contributes $3 million and borrows $4.5 million to complete the acquisition. At an 8% interest rate over 15 years, annual principal and interest payments would be approximately $516,000. Now return to the normal volume scenario. The market processed 40,000 cattle and produced approximately $120,000 of operating profit. That is nowhere near enough to cover more than $500,000 of annual debt service. The auction looked busy. $96 million changed hands. Thousands of animals passed through the ring. Yet the owner lost cash because the commission retained from each sale was too small relative to the fixed costs and financing. This is the difference between transaction value and business revenue. The owner does not become wealthy because expensive animals are sold. The owner becomes wealthy only if enough animals are sold at a sufficient fee to cover the facility's enormous standby costs. Current cattle conditions make this calculation even more complicated. USDA reported 86.2 million cattle and calves on U.S. farms at the beginning of 2026. The beef cow inventory was approximately 27.6 million, 1% below the previous year, while the estimated calf crop had also declined. A smaller national herd can push cattle prices higher, which helps an auction charging percentage-based commissions. Each animal may generate more revenue, but fewer available animals can reduce throughput. The owner may therefore earn more per animal while receiving fewer animals. Whether the auction benefits depends on which effect is stronger. This produces one of the strangest contradictions in the business. High cattle prices can make farmers' checks larger and increase percentage commissions, but they can also encourage direct selling, make buyers more cautious, and reduce the number of animals moving through the ring. The competitive moat is primarily local trust and market liquidity. Sellers choose the market where they believe enough serious buyers will compete. Buyers choose the market where enough suitable cattle will arrive. Each group attracts the other. A sale with many buyers can produce stronger prices, attracting more sellers to the next auction. More sellers create a better selection, attracting even more buyers, but the cycle can reverse quickly. When several major ranchers move to another auction, buyers may stop attending. Once buyers leave, remaining sellers may receive weaker bids and move their animals elsewhere. A market can lose decades of commercial momentum in only a few seasons. Online auctions, video sales, direct feedlot contracts, and internet bidding increase competition. They do not eliminate physical markets, especially for smaller producers and mixed groups of livestock, but they reduce the owner's control over local transactions. The largest financial risks are therefore not limited to cattle prices. The first is declining volume. Because most costs are fixed, a 20% fall in animal numbers can remove more than 100% of the owner's profit. The second is buyer default. Livestock sellers are expected to be paid promptly. If a buyer fails to pay, the auction may need to cover the shortage while attempting to collect the debt. The third is custodial account failure. Seller funds are trust money, not operating cash. Using those funds to pay wages, repairs, lenders, or other business bills can trigger serious regulatory action. In March 2025, USDA announced a settlement involving Salem Livestock Auction concerning the timely reimbursement of its custodial account. The lesson is larger than one company. An auction can be busy and still create a regulatory crisis if client funds and business funds are not kept properly separated. The fourth risk is disease or biosecurity disruption. An outbreak, movement restriction, or facility contamination can delay sales, reduce attendance, and create cleaning and testing costs. The fifth is property economics. Valuable land may eventually produce a higher return through redevelopment than through livestock commissions. This creates pressure to close the market even when the operating business remains useful to the agricultural community. Now, stress test the representative market. Assume it normally processes 60,000 cattle and generates approximately $1.28 million of operating profit before financing. A drought, shrinking herd, and competing auction reduce volume by 15%. Throughput falls to 51,000 head. Contribution margin declines by approximately $522,000. Wages rise by 8% because the market is struggling to retain experienced yard staff. Insurance and utility costs increase. Then the roof and loading system require $400,000 of unexpected repairs. A business that previously produced more than $1 million of operating profit can finish the year with little or no cash after debt service and capital spending. A responsible owner may need at least 6 to 12 months of fixed costs and debt payments available through cash reserves or committed credit. For a large regional market, that reserve can easily reach $1 to $2 million. So, is owning a livestock auction market profitable? Yes, but only when the owner controls reliable livestock volume, maintains a deep pool of buyers, protects seller funds, manages the property efficiently, and avoids excessive acquisition debt. A high volume market with strong regional relationships can produce attractive cash flow. The land may appreciate, debt can be gradually reduced, and secondary businesses can increase the return. But a low volume market purchased at a high real estate valuation may be an extremely poor investment. The owner can process tens of millions of dollars in transactions while earning a return smaller than that of a simple commercial property. The business is best suited to experienced livestock operators, auctioneers, regional agricultural companies, and investors who already understand local producers and buyers. It is unsuitable for passive investors who believe the cattle's sale value belongs to the auction or who assume rural land and old buildings require little maintenance. The biggest hidden cost is not feed, electricity, or the auctioneer's commission. It is empty capacity. Every unused pen, missing buyer, and absent truckload reduces revenue while the land, employees, scales, insurance, maintenance, and loan payments remain. In this business, owning the sale barn creates the appearance of control, but owning the trust of the sellers and the attention of the buyers is what controls the economics.